China leads the world in AI adoption, but is now banned from using ChatGPT. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI headlines you need in around 5 minutes. One of the big themes running through the AI space is the geopolitical battle and tension between the US and China. This is not new, nor is it exclusive to AI, but it has certainly been heightened because of the rise of AI. One of the recent developments is that last month, OpenAI announced that they would be blocking Chinese users from their products. Now, of course, technically, ChatGPT was already blocked in China by the government firewall, but before this new block from OpenAI, developers could theoretically use VPNs to get around the firewall and use OpenAI's APIs to fine-tune their own AI applications or benchmark their own research. Now, however, the block is coming from both sides at once. Said an OpenAI spokesperson last month, "We're taking additional steps to block API traffic from regions where we do not support access to OpenAI services." Although it was announced last month, the block went into effect today, July 9th. According to leaders in the community, this move from OpenAI, which by the way was not explained at all, has, quote, caused significant concern within China's AI community. However, for domestic Chinese companies, it also creates a new opportunity. The way The Guardian puts it is that companies like SenseTime and Baidu, quote, scrambling to hoover up OpenAI's rejected users. By way of example of how that competition is playing out, after the decision was announced last month, Baidu offered 50 million free tokens for its Ernie 3.5 model, Zipu AI offered 150 million free tokens, Tencent Cloud was giving away 100 million free tokens, and SenseTime also giving away 50 million free tokens. Writes The Guardian, one consequence of OpenAI's decision may be that it accelerates the development of Chinese AI companies which are in tight competition with their US rivals as well as each other. While US companies such as OpenAI have been at the cutting edge of generative AI, Chinese companies have been engaged in a price war that some analysts have speculated may harm their profit margins and their ability to innovate. Said NYU professor Winston Ma, OpenAI's departure is a short-term shock to the China market, but it may provide a long-term opportunity for Chinese domestic LLM models to be put to the real test. We also got news that in another workaround, OpenAI's China ban would not apply to Microsoft's Azure China. Basically, Chinese companies can still get access to OpenAI's APIs as long as they are buying them through Microsoft's Azure cloud service, which operates as a joint venture with a local company, 21Vianet. The information went out and looked, and found 3 Azure China customers that confirmed they have access to OpenAI's models. Writes the information, the divergence between Microsoft and OpenAI on this issue reflects broad differences between how each company deals with China. OpenAI may feel a need to avoid any suggestion that its technology is helping Chinese companies stay competitive with American ones, given Washington's concerns about China advances in the area. The information continues, the contradiction between the policies of OpenAI and Microsoft became particularly apparent late last month. A day after OpenAI notified Chinese developers about its crackdown on access to its services, Microsoft China's official WeChat account published a post in Chinese encouraging developers to migrate to Azure OpenAI. Now, Microsoft has some of its own challenges when it comes to DC and AI. We recently covered how their deal with G42, which at the time, frankly, it seemed like it was set up by the government, was increasingly under scrutiny, given that UAE-based companies' ties to Chinese companies as well. Interestingly, a new survey helps dramatize the stakes of all of this. In a survey of 1,600 decision makers in industries worldwide by SAS and Coleman Parks Research, 83% of Chinese respondents said they use generative AI, compared to, for example, 65% in the United States and 54% globally. Last week, a report by the United Nations World Intellectual Property Organization showed that between 2014 and 2023, 6,276 patents had been filed in the US around generative AI, as compared to 38,000 filed in China. Then again, not all of the ways in which China is using generative AI are things that Americans are particularly keen on. For example, the SAS report points out that China leads the world in continuous automated monitoring, i.e. professional surveillance. A couple more quick stories before we get out of here. One more on OpenAI in a very different dimension. OpenAI has partnered with Arianna Huffington's Thrive to create an AI health coach called Thrive AI Health. In a Time magazine op-ed, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and Thrive leader Arianna Huffington said that the health coach will be trained on the, quote, best peer-reviewed science, alongside the, quote, personal biometric lab and other medical data you've chosen to share with it. Now, this is an area where there is a huge amount of experimentation and development when it comes to the use of AI, and I think the interesting thing here is just OpenAI choosing to explicitly move into this space through this partnership. Lastly, from the annals of tough startups, the latest news out of Humane is that 2 of its executives have left the company to found an AI fact-checking startup. Former strategic partnerships lead Brooke Hartley-Moy and head of product engineering Ken Kosienda have started a company called InFactory, which is described by TechCrunch as a kind of fact-checking search engine. So far, we only have the information that's been reported, but it's supposed to be basically a more sophisticated search system that knows when and when not to use AI, and I think underpins just how much competition there is still in the quote-unquote AI search space. Still, for most people, the big story is Humane losing execs, and I wonder if that portends more trouble for the company. For now, though, that is going to do it for the headlines. Next up, the main episode.